So I got to see Cyrano the day before it premieres for a limited release, starring Peter Dinklage. Now, this wasn't going to be on the movies I was going to see this year because, honestly, the only reason I even know this movie exists is because I saw a trailer for it when I went and saw West Side Story. Otherwise, I would have no idea what this is, and I didn't know the story. I first learned about the story from the trailer that I saw when I went and saw West Side Story back in really early January, like January 2nd. So this was kind of a surprise, but the movie looked really interesting, and I got to see it today. So, and the trailer made it look like it was going to be a pretty interesting film. And it is. This is actually a very enjoyable movie. So the main oh jeez, hang on, I got some stuff shuffling around down there. But the main premise of this film is that a man named Cyrano, not deformed, that's not right, a very short individual played by Peter Dinklage, or I guess he refers to himself as midget, so might as well. He's in love with his friend, one of his old friends named Roxanne. I can remember her name for a second, but she is in love with a man named Christian. Jesus Christ, how am I already blanking on these names? I saw this movie a couple hours ago. But she's in love with a man named Christian. Well, love at first sight, I guess. It's not really real, it's the Romeo and Juliet bullshit. So, and she requests that he writes letters to her, and they write back, but the man named Christian, who is a new recruit for the Guard, which Cyrano is a leader in, I guess? Or is he just one of them? I don't know. I got a notification. My camera is low battery, so I got to do this quick. So, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, he volunteers to help Christian by writing the letters for him. And of course, this creates the same issues you would see in these, but it doesn't really go the route you think, for the most part. I was really surprised with this. I wasn't really surprised. I anticipated it would be good, and I was pretty much right. But I was shocked to find that one thing that surprised me was that it was a musical. And I did know that ahead of time, but I remember when I saw the trailer, it didn't dawn on me that it was going to be a musical until I looked it up, and it was under the musical category. And that was odd, and to be perfectly honest, this movie is no reason to be a musical. Pretty much everything the songs say were said in the conversation they were currently having. So most of the songs kind of feel tacked on. None of them are bad, really. I especially like the song Cyrano has when he's in his first duel on the stage about 20 minutes in. It's a pretty enjoyable song. My favorite one was sung by the military members right before they go into battle near the end of the movie. And that was probably my favorite song. And it was also probably one of my favorite interactions in the movie between Cyrano and Christian. Because the dialogue scenes in this are some of the best scenes. There are some action sequences. There's, of course, the first one with Cyrano fighting some jack-off. I don't remember. I don't think they ever said his name out loud. I honestly don't care. And it's supposed to represent that he's great with wordplay and swordplay. And he's doing both at the same time. And that's a decently okay scene. Then there's a fight about 15 minutes later where he fights about 10 people at once. And I will get credit that it was all done in that at least most of it was all done in one take. It was one of those one-take scenes that are becoming really popular nowadays, that was popularized by Daredevil. And now everybody wants to do them. And this one it's okay. The shot composition isn't always the best. It tries to do this one take thing, but you need a wider shot to do it. It's trying to have close-ups at the same time while it's spinning throughout the place, trying to follow Cyrano. But it's also trying to be like a close-up on his face, and it's not always working. There are times when I can't really see what they're doing, and it's a little too dark to make everything out. But it's still an enjoyable scene. The war scene was cut extremely short. That was one of the most jarring things that happened in this film. It's like, they're about to go to war, and then it just cuts away. And, like, near the end of the movie. It just cuts to a time jump. What? So yeah, of course we all know Peter Dinklage is a great actor. He's a very good singer, apparently. I didn't know, but it's like the same thing with Andrew Garfield, who knew he could sing. The other people do their acting and their singing's pretty good. I did realize that it was done, that the singing was done live, and I hate when movies do this because it's so gimmicky. They did it with Les Mis, and that was already, like, at least this one doesn't have the same issues as the other ones that did it live. Like, Les Mis had the problem of all their actors doing 10 hours worth of takes, so they sound like shit. Cats that was bad all around, but the music was just wrong, and there were multiple portions where they were doing some kind of move that inhibited their ability to hold notes or to, yeah. And then there's Dear Evan Hansen, where I can't hear what the fuck they're saying. The only one that's worked with that is Tick Tick Boom, where it did its stuff live, at least most of it. I don't know if all of them were done live, but at least most of them were. That's the only time it's done well, because there were none of those complications that arose. They weren't doing 10 hours worth of takes, so the actors sounded like shit. They weren't doing all these these fancy moves, and they weren't singing however they wanted and having the music follow them, and I can hear what they're saying. Unlike fucking Dear Evan Hansen. That's getting a cinematic disaster soon, I will tell you that. And Cyrano has the same thing. It's all done live, but again, it's annoying, it's stupid, I don't like it. It's gimmicky, but it's fine here, I guess. There's nothing, like, wrong with it here. Doesn't really inhibit anybody's singing because there's not a lot of dancing going on. And the songs are all pretty decent. That's about all I have to say about the music. Well, the musical score is pretty good. I really like the score for this movie. This movie was directed by Joe Wright, who, if you don't know, also directed that shitty Pride and Prejudice remake with Keira Knightley, which, ugh. And so I saw that, and I'm like, oh no. But his directing was perfectly adequate for this film. Was he the right person to direct a musical? I'm not entirely sure. I'm still not sure why this was a musical to begin with, but I digress. It was an okay effort for a musical. It was way better than a lot of the musicals that came out last year, like Dear Evan Hansen, but when it comes to the music, it wasn't as good as like Tick Tick Boom or West Side Story. Well, yeah, okay, so I'm going to go into some spoilers here. If you haven't seen the movie and want to, I'm going into spoilers now. So, the ending was kind of predictable. It didn't quite go the route I expected. Like, I knew Christopher, why do I keep wanting to call him Christopher? Christian, of course, dies during the war, even though he seemed more like it was suicide. He just kind of ran up that hill and just let himself get shot, basically. Was that really just suicide? I don't know what his plan... If it wasn't, I don't know what his plan was there. And then Cyrano does get shot in the shoulder. And that's it, but I'm like, okay, I'm surprised they didn't kill him off, too. But then, it's like, the fight is just about to start, and then it jumps to 3 years later. That was such a jarring transition, and I didn't like it. I wanted to see more of that. And then it cuts to 3 years later, and I figured, I'm like, before I watched the movie, I'm like, is this going to be one of those movies where the main character dies? Because it seems like every movie nowadays has to have the main character die. I know this is based on a play. I'm not sure if the play was actually based on a true story. I didn't look that up, but I know it's at least based on a play. Whether that was a musical, I'm not sure, but I didn't say musical, I just said play, so I'm assuming the music was for this film alone. So, but yeah, of course, it follows the trend of that the main character has to die. And I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. It was a predictable ending. I knew Christian was going to die. I figured Cyrano was going to die. And that's exactly what happened. There are a few minor characters. There's a quote-unquote villain that shows up. But he's not in the movie very long. His only purpose is to send Christian and Cyrano to the war where the issues of the letters start to appear and Christian dies. And yeah, that's really his only purpose in the film, because otherwise he's just kind of superfluous. Like, he's barely any. He has his own song sequence, but doesn't really do much. It's just him walking down the street, but at least it's more cleverly shot than fucking waving through a window from Dear Evan. I'm gonna keep bashing on Dear Evan Hansen until I get that Cinematic Disasters out. It's not the next one, but it'll be coming at some point. So I'm gonna keep beating on as much as possible because that movie's getting even worse. But I'm getting sidetracked talking about Cyrano, and I'm pretty much done. There's not much else to say on this movie. I'm glad it isn't another 2.5 hour slog. I'm getting real sick of those. Like, every movie nowadays has to be 2.5 to 3 hours long. Otherwise, people think it's too short, I guess. And fuck you for that, Zack Snyder, because I know you're responsible for that. But it's a light, breezy 2 hours. Doesn't overstay its welcome. The pacing is pretty decent, apart from that one jarring-ass cut near the end. The pacing's all pretty good. The dialogue scenes are some of the best in the film. The action sequences are decent enough. They're reasonably fun to watch. And the songs are pretty good overall. So yeah, I can definitely recommend this one. I can recommend going to the theater if it's showing in your area. I'm not sure what areas this is actually showing in because it's getting a limited release. So I'm not sure if this is getting a national release or if it's just releasing in certain areas in the United States. But yeah, if it's playing in your area, give it a watch. Especially if you're like me and you see movies almost every week, and you have nothing to watch this weekend because you already got your fill from Uncharted last weekend. Go ahead and give this a watch the week before you go see the Batman, because I know most people are going to. And yeah, that's all I got to say now. I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give this a B plus. Yeah, that seems right. Yeah. So thank you all so much for watching. Do you have interest in seeing this? Did you even know this movie existed? Because again, I only know about it because I saw it in because I saw a trailer for it when I went to see another movie. Otherwise, I would have no idea this even existed. So yeah, that's all I got. And now I have to suck it up and go watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I may not actually watch it, but I'm going to try.